At the tone, the time will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly.
Stop now, you got to stop and listen to what I say. Stop and feel that you've been missing.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. We are recording this on October 23rd of 2014. And Ramon, I was actually out in the living room a little while ago, and it dawned on me like, oh wow, my birthday's already here. My birthday just a week away, and it's the last thing I have on my mind, I suppose. But I guess I use it kind of as a marker of another year passing. I don't know. It just surprised me that it's here already. I mean, it seems like my birthday last year was just here. This year has really flown by, and man, amazing stuff. Just one little thing before I let you have the mic for a minute, Ramon, is I want to make a plea out there to all our listeners, and let's have this one piped straight into the collective consciousness. Calm down, people. It's fear porn.
It's always
fear porn. It's fear porn. This Ebola thing. I mean, this is the latest fear card that's being played, and if you talk to people on the streets, you'll get a different story than what you hear in the news. People in the streets, or people at least I know and people I come across, have absolutely no concern for it, and I don't know if it's just that the people I surround myself with are a little bit more aware of the games that are being played or what, but if you are buying into the propaganda that's being pumped out there, man, you really got to wake up and smell the coffee, because this is all. If you tie what's going on out there in the media right now in with everything that you've learned and everything that you understand about the consciousness and about how the subconscious and about how we are suggestive by nature, our whole build-up is suggestive, and especially if we are not aware of the suggestibility of our nature, then we are highly suggestive. I guess I'm making a plea for sanity out there, and people to really take a close look at what they're buying into and what they're helping to feed. Because as soon as we start fearing something ourselves, we are adding that energy to it and helping it to grow along those lines. And this goes into every aspect of your life, every realm of consciousness and thought that you have. As soon as you add that thought process, as soon as you focus attention onto whatever it is, you're adding that energy to it. So, I guess I'd rather be more of the cure than the disease myself. So,
yeah, and there's also a lot of things that they were saying, natural things you can take if you're really worried about it. There's natural things you can take that supposedly help prevent it. But I would worry more about, getting the flu, because more people die from the flu than they do from Ebola. So.
Yeah, what is it? There's some startling ass number just here in the United States. Something like 34,000 people a year die from the flu.
Yeah, and and again, for that, there's a lot of natural things. We take here, me and my wife, we take this yogurt type thing that has natural bacteria that help boost up your immune system. The whole what's that called? Not antibiotic, but macrobiotic.
Probiotic.
Probiotic. Thank
There
you.
go.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of probiotic things you can take, and pumping your system full of turmeric. I always add like turmeric to my coffee in the morning. If you
Turmeric in your coffee?
yeah, it's
Really?
actually pretty good. Yeah,
What's it do to the
teaspoon.
taste, the flavor?
It gives you a little turmeric flavor, but it's actually, I don't know if I gotten used to it or made it better. I can't really tell you, but I also add a little bit of coconut oil, which is another thing that's also good for you as far as that. You can, every night before you go to bed, take some cloves, cinnamon sticks, star anise, and make a tea and add an apple into it. That's another thing that, so if you guys are really worried about those kind of stuff, there's there's tons and tons of stuff on the internet. I
Oh
mean,
God, yes. I suppose
natural
there's
ways to boost your immune system.
me and my silver linings, right? So I know that there's a silver lining with all this fear porn going on right now about the Ebola virus, and maybe that's the silver lining on the collective basis, is that people start becoming more aware of some of the holistic remedies that are out there and preventative measures that they can take to stave off all sorts of different stuff, not just Ebola. I mean, everything you just mentioned there, Ramon, is multifaceted. I mean, it covers a wide range of it's
Other things.
different things that it helps to prevent or even heal. So
Yeah, I heard George Norrie say this once, and I agree with him 100%, which is whatever diseases or problems is out there, there's definitely, nature has something to counteract that. If it didn't, it wouldn't be balanced. The problem is that, we have to sit there in a lab for 10 years to figure it out, and then they're not taking the pure stuff, they're just taking out certain parts, so it's not the same as like you're making a tea or even creating oils from it and using that. So
yeah.
There you go.
All right. So
and we'll be talking about natural cures today.
Yeah. So, and you wanted to mention something else, Ramon? Before we get rolling?
Oh yeah. So as you guys know, a fellow listener and a very, very old friend of mine passed away this week actually, and it was nice that he was able to visit me in my dreams. Not nice that he passed away, but nice that he visited me in my dreams. And what was strange about the dream was that I realized I was dreaming, and I said, B, where you at? And then he just like walked into the room, but he was a kid. He was like a 5-6-year-old kid, and he sat on my lap, and the part that I'm kicking myself about is that I don't remember anything that was said. And when you have those kind of lucid dreams, the difference between like out-of-body experience and lucid dreams for me is that I have to constantly keep conscious that I'm dreaming. I have to keep that running in my head. If not, I get caught up in the dream and forget that I'm dreaming. So it's really nice it's not the first time I've had a friend of mine or a family member that visit me after they pass. I have another friend named Hector who every once in a while he'll visit me, but he always gives me like this fatherly look, like, what you doing kind of look. And then my friend's mother as well, she comes to visit every once in a while. So that's always really nice. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, even though we don't have those people we adore physically, energy cannot be destroyed. So, their conscious goes somewhere, so they're still around. We just need to open up more to realize that they're still around. So, I'm done.
All right. You're done?
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for visiting Ramon Bayan. I appreciate that. He definitely was looking forward to something along those lines. So.
Yeah, I still am though.
Yeah, well, this time you're going to have to yell at him next time you go visit him because he didn't understand regular talking. So do something that's really memorable to him. All right, Ramon, I set you up for tonight.
All right, great.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and on with the show. We've got a real special treat for you guys tonight. We've got Sara Chetkin with us, and this one came across, and as you guys know, I've been doing the Reiki thing here recently, so healing has definitely been something that's on the main burner of my stove here in the last few months. So this came to us, and it was just perfect as far as fitting into where I'm at and where we've been going with the show. So at 15, Sara Chetkin received a devastating diagnosis. She had a severe scoliosis, a curvature of the spine that caused debilitating back pain and would eventually lead to deformity and possible loss of mobility. Little did she know this diagnosis would also lead to a life of profound healings and spiritual awakenings. As an adolescent, she ignored her back and tried to live her life as if it didn't exist. But as years passed, she began to realize the extent of which this disease had controlled her life, influencing all of her life decisions and shaping the way she perceived the world and her place in it. Determined to heal herself, she embarked on a physical journey, traveling around the world, seeking healing for both body and soul. Along the way, she had many encounters with healers and shamans, including a psychic surgeon in Brazil, a Maori healer, oh geez, I never have been able to get that one right, Maori healer in New Zealand, and a Sicilian Tuna practitioner in West Virginia. As she traveled, she began to understand that her healing would never begin until she removed all of the deceptions and illusions with which she had surrounded herself. She would have to learn to approach life and the universe with true humility. While her travels in the physical world continued, the author experienced rich and powerful inner journeys as well, journeys in which awareness expanded into complete understanding and acceptance of the universe and her place in it. From these spiritual moments, she experienced the power of surrender and the true bliss that comes from letting go of fear. The foundation of her healing process was the acknowledgement that fear entraps, entangles, ultimately blinding us to our limiting beliefs and behaviors. I want to welcome you, and we're going to be centering this talk tonight around your book, The Healing Curve. Welcome to the Hundredth Monkey Radio, Sara Chetkin.
Thank you. It's really good to be here.
Oh, Sara, do you have a website out there that we can throw out there real quick for our listeners?
Yeah, it's thehealingcurvebook.com.
Oh, fantastic. So, you know, we kind of covered what got you into the the seeking process of your journey, but I know for so many of us, we and me included, we get the proverbial cosmic 2x4 upside the head to actually get us to start looking. Mm-hmm. So yours was kind of a physical 2x4 upside the back, I guess.
Right.
So what was that process like? I mean, when you were first diagnosed, I've thought about this before. Had some dramatic events happen close to me that people were diagnosed with different things, and I just can't fathom and imagine the experience of being given that kind of news. What was it like for you?
Well, it was really terrible walking into that room and seeing my x-ray because my spine was just so twisted, and I was young and I didn't really know how to handle it. It was very scary, and I really shut down for a little while. But I've always been somebody who, if I receive bad news or if things get complicated or, start to go in a way that I don't like, I tend to immediately start to problem solve and kind of figure out what I can do and how I can make it better. I don't like to wallow in it for too long. And I think part of that is just that I can't stand the fear and the frustration that comes if I just sit there and feel helpless. I have to do something. So it's pretty much immediate that we started kind of planning and brainstorming about what to do. And just because of the nature of my family and, the way we are, the way that we approach healing and everything, we never even considered doing a traditional path with a doctor and surgery. It just wasn't even an option. And so, of course, immediately there was this whole road wide open of, well, where do we start? I mean, who do we go to first? What do we do? And so we just kind of started exploring the possibilities. And, my mom really, of course I was 15, so my mom really took the lead in that. And she just started, I don't know if she did research or, she's amazing at finding people. So she was really the driving force at first, getting me to this one, getting me over here, flying me there, And it was amazing. In a way, I don't know. I wouldn't have been exposed to all of those things at such a young age if I hadn't had such a severe curve. If it had just been a minor thing, I just would have gone on with my life. It would have been nothing. So, sometimes I look at it as a blessing. It's just I've had such an amazing life because of it, and now I'm kind of moving out of that frenzied healing phase. Really constantly, frantically searching for healing and really working on the more internal and the more spiritual, which I think is reflected in the healing curve.
Right.
I really shifted my perspective, so it's a calmer period.
So family dynamics have obviously not a real traditional Christian family, or
no, not at all.
More spiritually minded. I'm
lucky
assuming.
you.
Yeah. In fact, well, my mom was raised Catholic, and when I was growing up, she's over it now, but growing up, she had a lot of resentment towards that kind of faith, and so I really kind of picked that up. And I can remember one time we were on this, we went to Peru with this group of healers, and it wasn't for me, it was just these do you know Healing Touch? It's like an energy-based healing, and a lot of nurses do it. And they were doing this trip to Peru, and my mom was good friends with the woman leading it, so we went with her. This trip there are a lot of really funny, crazy things about this trip, but one was that there was a nun on the trip, and I was still young, in my late teens or something, and I had taken on all of this anger about Catholicism from my mother, and I just had butted heads with her the entire time. So I had to get over that myself. People make the joke that they're a recovering Catholic, but I was like a recovering Catholic's daughter. I'm like the recovering daughter of a Catholic or something.
Huh.
So, but I grew up in a small community that's a spiritualist town. You have to be a member of a spiritualist church to live here. And spiritualism is very open. It's almost not a religion at all. It has no dogma. It has no creed. It has no instructions of any kind. You can just explore for yourself what your own spirituality is, and they have some guiding principles, and that's it. So I grew up in a very open household where we were allowed to explore so many possibilities and learning about energy. And we had like my friend's mom taught a little Sunday school thing for the kids, and it was all about we would hold felt color in different colors and have to close our eyes and, what is the energy of this color? How does that feel? And what does that feel like to you as you're holding it? What are you thinking about? How does it feel to you? And then it just exercises like that all the time, things like that. So yeah, from a very young age, it was very spiritual, really all about energy and meditation. And so I had that already. It was already fertile ground for this kind of adventure in my life, luckily.
Right. Okay, so that was, being raised in that kind of an environment. Wow. It's absolutely, I have problems fathoming that because I was kind of raised in a very, I don't know. My mom experimented a lot, I guess. She went from, we were Buddhist for a couple of years. We were, I was born and baptized Catholic, and we were Buddhist, and and then went back to some funky Christianity and holy roller stuff, and then it just went to absolutely nothing, and it just, the church was gone. And so I always had the attitude my whole life that religion was created to control the masses. That was my patent response whenever that religion came up, and it served me well until I got hit in the head with my 2x4. Go ahead, Ramon.
No, I was gonna say that I understand your mom's thing, the recovering Catholic. Especially, I think for a lot of us who grew up in that kind of environment, I think what's really hard is when you see, especially the Jehovah's Witnesses and everybody else, when they're trying to force their point of view onto you. I think that's where that frustration for people like me and your mom comes out the most. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you mean just that you don't have any freedom of thought?
No, that it's you wanna your reaction is to attack them and attack them with their own spiritual guidance. You know, their own. It's what's the word? Hypocritical. Sorry.
Hypocritical.
Thank you. When they're, voicing these things and being very judgmental of the people around, like, if they're standing on a street corner and
right.
Your reaction is to attack back, so I've learned to deal with that too, and I guess living here is help because the Jehovah's Witnesses here, they'll knock on your door, and if you just say, "Oh, no, thank you," they leave very respectfully. Where in New York City they would, what do you mean?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they're pretty persistent here in the U.S. I guess. I mean, I've definitely had to be rude to get them off my front porch before, but it just doesn't make sense to me that people will run around trying to give other people the answers when there's no question that's been asked.
Right.
That's...
Well, I grew up in sorry, I didn't grow up. I lived for a short period of time in my 20s in a very Christian area of the country, and, regularly they would ask my husband and me and my husband, "Oh, so what church are you going to join? And, we have some open spaces in the pews next to us, and we really need them to be filled, and, when are you going to come?" And, I mean, really, like, trying to be nice, I guess, and welcome us into the community, but it was so awkward because we were just the opposite of Christian. We would never ever go, but it was this awkward thing where we didn't want to just blatantly say, "We're not Christian, we're never going to join your church," but because it would have been considered so offensive, and
right.
I don't know, it was just really a difficult line to walk. They don't leave you any room to say no, if you say no, there's clearly something wrong with you.
Right, you're going to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you mean?
Oh, gee, I had a Jehovah's Witness show me a picture of heaven once.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he said it would look like a park. I was like, oh, man, heaven's a park. Awesome. Oh, anyways, let's get back to the show. So where did you went to? No, Peru was before your diagnosis. No,
Peru was afterwards, but it just didn't. We weren't there for that for that particularly. It was just a journey.
Okay, so where give us a brief timeline of all the different places you went to and what kind of healing modalities you experienced.
Well, the first thing was the Ro-Hun therapy, and that was just in my own home, and then for a brief time in Georgia, where the center is where they teach that therapy. And then we went to Brazil a couple times to see Dr. Geddes, and he's a lesser-known psychic surgeon. Everybody knows John of God. And I've been to him too. But that was more recently, just my mom wanted to go for something, and I went with her. And, I mean, of course, I received healing too, And then after that, we did the Maori is how you say it.
There you go.
Maori healers in New Zealand, and then in between all of that, I was always going to my chiropractor in Key West, or just doing different things, more kind of conventional things around the States, massages and body work, stuff like that, and yoga, just to keep myself in a good place. And we did, let me see. Oh, we met that woman totally by accident, Cheryl. I mean, she came to Lilydale, and my mother happened to sit next to her in a service they were having here, and then she, they really started connecting and talking, and then she said, well, you need to meet my daughter because she has scoliosis, and Cheryl said, well, I don't work with people unless they're very serious, and, and then they just decided to work with me, and so I started seeing her, and she was incredible. I mean, she's an amazing body. To call it body work is just, it's so much more than that. And then in between there as well, we, and he's not in the book, but his name is Robert Pang, and he does incredible healing work out of New York City. But he comes here a lot and teaches Qigong. He's a Qigong master, and he can generate electricity in his hands. And I mean, strong electricity. His Qi is so strong. It feels like, if he goes, if he really lets it go, like full force that he can, it's like being electrocuted. I mean, it's very, very strong. So he does that work, and I saw him a lot, and then, I don't know, I think after Cheryl, I started seeing her more regularly, and she really helped a lot, and after that, I just kind of started moving into this other phase where I was doing more of my own thing, doing more Ro-Hun on myself, really working on the philosophical side, and taking all of the things I had learned in the last decade and really like applying them, in my life, and right. Working with that, really seeing what happens when you, like I say in the healing curve, when you sit still and you actually try to bring this stillness into your life, when you try to motivate yourself from someplace other than just a need for distraction or a need to get away from a negative feeling, or, really looking at all of these spiritual principles and seeing how they actually play out on a day-to-day basis. How can you use them in your daily life? Because we talk so much about these high-minded ideas and these beautiful philosophies, but actually grounding them in your life is something entirely different. So
yeah.
I started working with that more, and now I'm finding that it's so fulfilling. Healing is physical healing is so fulfilling too, but both are equally important.
Right. Would you explain Ro-Hun a little bit for us, please?
Sure. It's a therapy, so you look back into your life, but you're in a very meditative state. I won't say hypnosis. It's just a very light meditative state, and you go back to key points in your life where you made decisions about yourself, about the world, about your role in the world. And in those moments when you make that decision, it becomes a repeating pattern, a program that you're always running, right? So, and then eventually you forget you're running that program. I mean, you make a decision, I'm unworthy, because of a certain situation that's happened. Okay, now I know I'm unworthy. So that's always a tape that's running in your head. And it becomes this belief system. And as it becomes deeper ingrained in your psyche, you start to make decisions based on that belief. And because you're doing that, you're finding situations in your life that prove it to you, you know? I mean, it's always informing every choice. So, of course, you're going to walk into, again and again, situations that prove it to you. And as you do that more and more, for yourself, you say, aha, you see, look at that. I mean, again, I'm not being treated well. I'm being abused, and you can't trust anybody, and whatever. And all the while, it's because this voice in your head is saying you're not worthy of anything better than that. And then eventually, it's just a truth, It's infallible. It's just that is the truth, and that's how you live. That's the path you walk. That's the truth you live by. But of course, it's not. It's all based on a decision you made when you were 5 years old, when you didn't know any better.
Right.
So you go back and you heal that, and it's incredible how quickly it's like coming back into contact with a part of yourself that you literally have severed from your consciousness. You know, it's deep in there. It's hidden. It's like a demon for you, and you don't ever want to look at it, and you spend all of your energy trying to get away from it. And when you finally reconnect to it, the healing is immediate and profound, and suddenly everything in your perspective just shifts. But it's so hard to get there in conventional therapy because you're just talking, you're in your mind, you know, you can rationalize everything, you're going round and round and round, and you never really get to the central issue. And in Ro-Hun, you can't do that. You bypass your mind, you know, you're in a meditative state, the therapist is doing energy work with you, you just somehow, you can circumvent all that chatter and get right down to the emotional body, you know, the emotional part of it, and that's the important part. And it's incredible.
That's I guess I've always called that shadow work, right?
Yeah.
Digging deeply into the shadows of our personality and trying to understand the root cause and the root or the core situation that developed that viewpoint.
Yeah, and you know, as you do it more and more, you start to realize, because I mean, I've been getting Ro-Hun and doing I've studied Ro-Hun myself. I'm a Ro-Hun therapist since I was 17, and I'm 34, so it's a while. And you start to realize how actually unimportant and inconsistent a personality act is. You know, it's nothing. It's nothing. You know, it is not, it doesn't say anything about what you really are. It's just this persona, this, you know, this outfit you wear through life. And we're always trying to dress it up and make it so important. But as you start getting in there and seeing how your personality actually forms through all of these decisions, it becomes this superfluous thing that you can use when you need to. But, you know, you don't let it create clashes with people, you know, create problems and disturbances in your life. But there's no need. It's nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So in your book, you actually devoted a couple of chapters to some very key points in or foundational things that you have to have in place for all this to work for you, and those two things have to do with the personal responsibility and humility. I mean, I in my own personal journey, and those are not necessarily easy things to actually take on fully for yourself in our Western society, especially. Mm-hmm. But I found myself that they are absolutely essential components to being able to grow past a certain stage. Would you, let's start with humility and the importance of humility, if you would.
Sure. I mean, humility, like you said, it's pretty misunderstood, and I think it's something that I would kind of rephrase what you said. I wouldn't say that it's necessary, but I mean, you can't force it. You know, you're not, like in that section in the book, I talk about how I didn't know what I was asking for. I didn't know what I was looking for. It wasn't until I just fell into that state of grace, you can call humility, that I realized what the true nature of humility really is. And humility is actually is a kind of empowerment. You know, we don't think of it that way. We think of it as I'm the doormat, and everybody will wipe their filth on me and walk away, and I'm so humble, and I'm so holy, you know. But it's not. It's when you're in that energy, when you are approaching things from that perspective, it's so strengthening. You feel so empowered, and that's why you can, you know, to quote a Christian thing, turn the other cheek. You know, because it doesn't hurt you. It's nothing. It's, you know, people can say things to you, but it's not affecting you anymore, because in humility, all of your triggers and all of the personality stuff, all of your buttons are on the back burner. They don't matter. You know, you're in touch with your divine nature, your infinite nature, or however you want to call it. So these little things that people are saying and doing to you really become insignificant. They don't matter anymore. So you can stand in your power and in your grace, being in touch with your own infinite self, and it doesn't matter to you. And from the outside, people might look at that and say, oh, you know, he's so angry and he's being so rude to you, or your neighbor. I mean, I have a neighbor that we have a lot of, not the Fox News people, but the other side. She really doesn't like us, and she's always doing things. And, you know, people would think, why aren't you fighting back? I mean, why are you combating that? And how can you let them say those things to you? But in humility, you don't care.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't even touch you. It's not like, well, I'll just let her do that. It's okay. I mean, it stings, but it's all right. No, it doesn't sting. That's the point.
You know, I found as my humility began to grow within myself that the things that used to trigger me they kind of melted away out of my path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They just disappear because you don't have that button anymore. So the people who have that same button they don't have anything to latch onto with you anymore. You know, they just go find someone else to play with, basically.
Right. So, okay, then let's step on over to personal responsibility. And how did you get to a place where you owned yourself?
Well, you know, it's not easy when you begin. I'll say that. But an important part of that is honesty. You know, and I think something that really helped me was all of that therapy, the Ro-Hun therapy. And I should say, too, that, you know, Ro-Hun therapy is pretty difficult to come by, but there's another therapy called hypnotherapy, which is very similar and is just as effective. So, but anyway, I'm going on a tangent. So, because in the Ro-Hun therapy, you're really taking an honest look at your agendas and your own kind of silliness. So, and you see how your own belief systems are contributing to all of your choices, and that's why you get yourself into these situations, and that's really what personal responsibility is all about. Again, it's, you know, we hear the word responsibility and we think blame or fault, but when I say the word responsibility, I'm thinking, you know, you're empowered to change it. You've created it so you can shift it. You know, you chose that path so you can step off of it and move into something else. You have the ability to respond to these situations in whatever way you want, you know? So it's just about moving with grace through every situation and knowing I have chosen this. You know, this is, whether it's unconscious or consciously, I walked this path and I want to do what I can to heal the belief systems that got me here. You know, instead of constantly projecting all of that outward onto everyone around you, and you just never get anywhere, and you feel bitter and angry and, you know, frustrated with your coworkers or whoever, and you think you're safe and you think you're protecting yourself, but you're not. You're just perpetuating an endless cycle. Personal responsibility gets you out of that.
Right. There's a big difference between responsibility and reactability, I guess. You know, we and so many people are running on autopilot. You know, they're just complete. Their responses are all automatic. You know, they just spit out the first thing. And this, for me, anyways, it was a bit of a challenge and a struggle for me to actually become aware of the fact that most of my interactions with people were completely reactive. I was reacting the way that I had always done. You know, was my, you know, something, it was a button that was pushed, and I capitulated with the correct response that button dictated.
Right.
And so once I really started to understand what was going on, you know, what was really going on, and started taking a closer look at my reactions, and looking at my reactions, I started going, wow, is that really how I feel about how I just reacted? And that took me down a big, deep rabbit hole into, you know, self-examination and doing that shadow work, like the Ro-Hun therapy type thing.
Right. It is a deep rabbit hole, and you know the thing about it too is that it's endless. I mean, it really is. It's you can dig and dig and dig for the rest of your life. You're always going to find stuff to look at and to heal. And eventually, what I'm learning is that you really want to kind of transcend that whole process and be able to say, okay, it's all, all of this is just silliness, and eventually I don't have the need to heal it and nurture it and pamper is not the best word, but pamper myself with these, with all of this Ro-Hun therapy and everything anymore, because I see that it's just a pattern I'm stuck in, and I can move out of the entire pattern and work on being more in touch again with that humble self, that God self, whatever you want to call it, infinite self. I don't know what you guys call it, but that part of us that lives on, that isn't about our personality. And, when you can do that, and I'm not completely there yet, but it just, it's kind of like even abandoning that process of healing, the psyche and everything, because it's never going to be completely healed. It's infinite.
Right.
We live in duality. There's just as much good as there is bad.
Right.
So.
Yeah. How was that process for you, being able to look at both sides of yourself, the both sides of the coin, so to say, as far as our own self-worth and our own projection into the world, the little things that we do that we know are evil. Oh yeah, yeah. and
it's frustrating sometimes. I've gotten pretty good over the years at not reacting right away to things, but everybody has their weak parts, and sometimes with family, like with my mother or something, I'll trip up because that's kind of a safe space, where I don't know. We all argue with our parents. And
right.
So then I'll look back the next day and I'll think, I'm so undisciplined. Like, I just didn't even see it happening, and I went down this whole path for no reason. And, and then you just get back on your horse, and nobody's perfect. And, if I had this all figured out, I'd be enlightened and have dropped my body and I'd be somewhere else, but we trip, and it's just another learning experience, and sometimes I get frustrated with myself, but I just take it as, another sign that I'm still working, and I'm still doing. I still have a lot of ground to cover, but I think overall my life has just become so much easier and so much more peaceful, and I generally have really good relationships with everybody, regardless of, silly differences in politics or, like we were talking about earlier. And regardless of all of that, I try to have a good relationship with everybody I come into contact with. And I think because of all this work I've done, generally it works out fine, There are a few pockets where I can't seem to break through no matter how hard I try. Like, I talk in the book about my in-laws and how difficult it is and how much they hate me, and I don't know why. No matter what I do, I can't heal it. No matter what Ro-Hun I do, no matter what I look at in myself, no matter what, I can't find the key. So,
right. I think we all have a challenge like that in our lives.
Right.
And there's some, I'm becoming to a place where it's a place of acceptance, where there's some things that we can't change and are not meant to change.
Right.
And that it's a place of acceptance where you come to a point where you just have to accept them for who they are, or accept the situation for what it is, and love it for the experience and what you've gained out of it already.
I totally agree, and that's kind of where I am with that particular situation too, is that I can't change them. That's how they feel about me. That's their perspective. It says, for them, from their perspective, it would say more about them than it would about me. And, my husband lately has been saying he dreads the day when he suddenly has the clarity and sees how he's creating the situation and what his contribution is. But I think what you're saying is true. It's just we get so caught up in this idea of, we're creating our own reality that we forget that there's an entire world out there that is also, living and vibrant and alive and creating and,
their own realities.
Right. You can't change, sometimes you just can't change it. Maybe the lesson is, like you said, to just accept them and love them for who they are and what they're going through and be okay with it. And that's where I'm at. I don't have much anger. I just feel like, well, it's a shame. I mean, he has a big family and they do a lot of stuff together and we're kind of missing out on that, but we're not welcome, so it's okay. I just want to send them love and forgiveness and hope for the best later.
Exactly.
Yeah. On the other side of what you guys been talking about, I've noticed a lot, especially in the spiritual communities, like, okay, I'm gonna not fall into reaction and not get upset and things like that. And I think what ends up happening, because this is it's an old concept, but it's new to put into action. They've been
on a grand scale.
Yeah, and even on a personal scale, a lot of people have a hard time with it, because what ends up happening is you don't react to things, but it goes into a little bottle, and you don't realize it, and then one day that bottle pops. I remember one time, a long time ago, I was doing like those what's that called? The neighborhood like video channel, a public access channel, and they used to always make a joke that the people who did the spiritual shows were the scariest, and that's because when something went wrong, they just would pop. Really strong, and these are the same people that you watch their TV shows, and they're very peaceful and graceful, and they have this calm about them. But then, when something went wrong in the studio, they were the worst reacting ones, worse than the hip hop guys.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely a fine line between acknowledging your emotions and letting them go and repressing them.
Right.
And again, I think, it comes down to the fact, and I've been saying this a lot lately, that all of these ideas and these morals we have, like being grateful and being humble and, not reacting, all of these things you can't work from the outside in. You can't change your behavior and expect that that's going to create, that the internal is going to change after that. I mean, you have to do the work inside, and then because of that work that you're doing, you'll embrace and you'll embrace those qualities more and more. The more work you do, looking at yourself, looking at your belief systems, looking at your agendas, healing those things, the more humble you'll be, the more gratitude you'll feel. The easier it will be to look at your emotions and say, I'm not my emotions. I don't need to identify so strongly with this anger. It's a temporary experience and I can move through it. But if you don't do any of the work and you say, okay, I'm not angry, I'm not reacting, be honest, you are angry. It's okay. It's an emotion. It passes, Learn to be honest about what you're feeling and then allow yourself to move through it. Don't. Just because you're on a spiritual path does not mean you can't feel jealous, you can't feel greed, you can't feel anger. Of course you're going to feel those things. You're human. We all feel them. Gurus feel them. Everybody feels them. It's just how you respond to it. So, and like I say, I think I try to hammer it home in the healing curve again and again. Be honest about it. I get angry and I know I do. I know I get angry, and that's fine. And when I'm feeling that, I can, I just read a book where she said, and it was a book about the brain and physiology of emotions and everything. It takes 90 seconds for those neurotransmitters to be flushed out of your body. So when you feel anger, there's nothing you can do about it for 90 seconds. You just have to allow it to be there. And then after that, if you're still feeling it, you're choosing to run that program again and again and again. So when you're feeling those emotions, stop for 90 seconds, take a breath, take a chance to acknowledge it. It's there for a reason. And then, work on letting it go or whatever.
Counting to 10 makes a whole lot more sense now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
There's a physiological basis.
I think for a lot of people, the reaction part is very understandable, but I think one of the issues a lot of people have is that with the anger, why are you feeling anger? For example, there's some injustice that you saw, and you're feeling anger towards that. A lot of the reactions would be like, okay, I'm not going to feel any anger, and then just let it go and not really try to get involved with that injustice because that feeds your anger. Do you see what I'm saying? Hello? Oh.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just thinking about what you're saying. I mean, I guess what I would say is, and I don't know if this is really responding correctly, but no matter what, I mean, if you see an injustice and you're feeling angry, are you saying that are you saying that people avoid getting involved because they don't want to deal with that emotion in themselves, and that they should get involved, or I guess I don't know where
Well, there's like this big thing, like, I'm not going to pay attention to the bad things in the world because I'm creating my own reality, so they don't get involved to try to make the world a better place, and that doesn't mean going out and shouting and getting into fistfights with the cops or whoever's creating the injustice. Just this idea of, okay, I'm gonna go meditate and create a new world, and not really get involved because they don't want to affect themselves in a negative way.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I would say to that is that, I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, and I know it's a very spiritual perspective, and what you're saying is a very kind of social, physical thing, but we're all part of the same energy, and, the more you work on yourself, the more you heal yourself, the more you can raise your consciousness, you're having a deeper impact on the collective psyche than you would have if you went out there and like just tried to, if it's not your calling, I mean, if you feel compelled to help, then I think you should help. But you're having just as deep an impact by doing that. I mean, I really do believe that, if you're doing the work and you're working on yourself, not working on changing the world, but working on changing you, then you're raising your consciousness and your vibration, and that is having an effect on the world. And you don't have to know about injustices to have an effect on them. I mean, they have those studies now where, well, it's been going on for decades, where a photon, they'll put like one photon on the other side of the world and one here in the States, and then they'll say, they'll change something in the one photon, and instantly it changes the behavior of the other one. It doesn't take any time at all. It's instantaneous because there is no space and time, technically, in reality. I mean, we create that to live in the physical world, but and I know I'm getting very metaphysical here, but so the same thing is true with us. I mean, when you're doing distance healing or, prayer or anything, or when you're just raising your own vibration, that's having an effect. It really is. So, yeah. But that doesn't mean that going out there and helping communities is bad or wrong. And I think it's in Buddhism that they say, if it crosses your path, then you have the responsibility to respond to it, however you can, in whatever way that you can. And, maybe that for some people, all they can do is prayer or meditation. And for others, it's, rolling up their sleeves and really getting involved. But no matter which way you're doing it, I would always say, still keep the focus on yourself, on clearing your own stuff, on working on your own, karmic baggage, on really getting in there and doing that work. Because no matter what, everything on the outside it's not helping you to progress spiritually, if you're just focused on that. You need to work on the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a balance there. You still have to interact with the world, but
Yeah, of course.
there is a balance that is attainable, and but it does take work. It takes conscious effort.
In it, in the world, but not of it. Fully engaged, but not
exactly
attached.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't disagreeing with you. I was just talking about the little traps that people can fall into. Where when they're on this path, which I've experienced and seen on both sides.
Right. Okay, well, yeah, we're at the top of the hour, Sara, and like to if you would put out where people can pick up your book, The Healing Curve, at.
Sure. It's on Amazon. It's a paperback and it's on Kindle. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. It's also available on Nook. And you can learn more about the book at my website, which is thehealingcurvebook.com.
Great. And there are links on the show page here, guys. So we are going to head off into a break, and we will be back on with hour 2, and we're going to continue talking to Sara about we're going to go into all sorts of good stuff in the second hour. We're going to talk about some of the interchanges that have happened for her and some of those processes. So if you're out there listening on the YouTubes or the Vimos or the iTunes or wherever and whatever media you happen to be hearing this on and want to hear hour 2, I would urge you to pop on over to www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com, where we have hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversation there for you to jump into. Good stuff. All right, condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you in hour 2.
You've been missed on along the way. Put aside your petty fight, serve your dignity. You've got to show the heart that you've been hiding and set it free. There's just one door, world gone wrong. Only love is and if the cure goes on, the cure for us all. There's an urgent message trying to reach you. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. It came the same way the very next day. The words they just kept on coming through. Hard to conceive if you believe me. This is what you really want to do. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt, the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know there's just one door in a world gone wrong. We only love it. And if the cure goes on, it's the cure for all. Step right up and don't be shy. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Complicated, it's really all quite simple in the end. You got to tune into your being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inhibition. Now let it be. Cast out the doubt, the mind is shattered. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know, there's just one cure in the world gone wrong. We only love it. And it's the cure for one, it's the cure for us all. Step right up and don't be shy. Got to look yourself right in the eye. There's a magic moment trying to meet you, an urgent message trying to reach you. The phone is ringing off the wall. So pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Pick up the call.